I wanted to share a trick with you that I learned in Excel as a way to help me deal with cluttered x-axes or x-axis labels on bar or column charts like this. So if you have a chart like this and you click on the chart to activate it, you can see it'll show you where the data are coming from in the chart. So you can see when I click on this, my table over here highlights, and this purple sort of range of cells here, that's where my labels are, and then this blue range of cells here, that's where my data are. So this is just fake attendance data for some museum or zoo or aquarium, some sort of visitor serving organization. Don't worry about the numbers. But I wanted to see if I could kind of clean up this x-axis a little bit because it looks really cluttered. There's a lot of redundancy here. So the years, this data shows quarterly attendance data from Q1 2020 all the way through Q4 2021. And you can see on every single bar we have labeled the quarter and we have the year. I don't think we need that year every single time we have a quarter, a bar that shows the quarterly data for that. I think we just need it once. So one of the things I would have done in the past is I probably would have deleted some of the data. So if you go into the data where the labels live, you can, whatever you have in this cell will show up in the chart. So I'm just going to delete 2020, and you can see that 2020 disappears. And what I might have done in the past is go up to here, insert, and then put in a text box. So then I would insert a text box that says 2020, and then I would have kept it down here, and maybe I'll delete, let's see, I'm going to format this a little bit, get rid of the lines. Kind of like this, oops. But you can see how unwieldy this is going to get. And then I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of these. And so I kind of want it to look like this, so that I get rid of the year, but I just have the year at the starting category, this Q1, and then it's pretty obvious that Q2, 3, and 4 are in the same year. You can see that's a pretty unwieldy process. I'm going to go ahead and just click undo so that I can go back to my sort of square one. I'm going to get rid of that text box, and I'm going to get to the point where I have this data here. You can actually break data labels across multiple lines in Excel, and you can do it pretty easily. There's one trick that I've seen some people do, and that's just add a bunch of spaces in the same cell. So I'm going to click on the cell. I'm going to click here with my cursor, and I'm just going to click space, the space bar until 2020 disappears from the cell. And it actually goes on to that second line. So then I'm going to push enter. And you can see here in the chart, 2020 goes on to a second line. Now there is another way to do that that I think is a little bit more elegant. And I'm going to go back into that cell, delete all those spaces. I'm going to put my cursor where I want the breakpoint to be. So I want that breakpoint to be between Q1 and 2020. And I'm going to go ahead and push Alt and Enter, the Alt key and Enter, and then Enter one more time. And that puts it on to that next label. Now I'm going to go do that for Q1 of 2021 also. I'm going to go ahead, put my cursor into this cell where I want the line to break, right between Q1 and the year 2021. I'm going to push Alt and Enter. That puts it onto another line, and then I'm going to push Enter again. And there you can see that my 2021 is there. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of the other years that are redundant for the Q2 through Q4 on each of these labels. It's starting to look really, really nice. Super clean. I think that's a really great way to sort of visualize these labels. This is another thing that you could do if you had like long label statements. Maybe you have like survey data or like a Likert scale type data where all of these labels aren't showing quarters, but they're showing like survey rating statements or something like that. You can then go into the cells and really use that Alt plus Enter technique to break across multiple lines if you wanted to do that to get a cleaner feel for the chart. Now there is another way that you can do this with through embedding super categories into your chart, and I'll scroll down and show you what your data needs to look like in order to do that. So in order to set up your data with the intention of putting in those super categories, this is how your data need to be set up. So in the first column, you need to have what your main super category would be, and for us that's going to be the year. So I have 2020 and 2021. Then you're going to have your individual data categories, the quarters, so quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you'll have your data. So instead of 2 columns of data, you're going to have 3 columns of data here. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and highlight this entire range, and I'm going to insert a column chart. And you can see how those super categories now look. Some of these defaults here, I would probably play with them a little bit more, but I'm going to click in here. Maybe I'll just make the font a little bit bigger. Let's go to size 12 for these. Maybe we'll go to size 20 for the title. And once you see these, you're going to see that they have some of these tick marks here that you might want to get rid of. I'll zoom in so you can see them. So you can see the super category here. The tick marks are these kind of long gray lines, and you can just get rid of those if you wanted to by going to the Format tab and then just clicking on No Line, so the line doesn't show up. The problem with that is that the super category labels, the years, are centered, and I don't really know that this helps sort of visually break things up. Usually we want to keep everything left aligned in all of our charts. Makes things look a lot cleaner just to get rid of all those center lines, and so it really isn't a way to do that with these super categories. So I really prefer the first option that we went through up here, and just really doing those intentional line breaks on specific labels that you want to have. But I think this x-axis looks really nice. Now I wanted to show you just kind of an extra bonus trick here. That will be another sort of visual cue that these years, the data for each of the years is different. And I want to kind of color code 2020. I'll keep 2020 this blue color, and then I want to make 2021, these 4 bars, maybe a different color, orange. Now you could do this sort of brute force by manually color coding each of the bars. So if you go ahead and click on the bars once, it'll highlight the entire series of data. So all of these bars will be highlighted, and if you change the color, they will all change. So I'm going to go back to that same color. But if you click again on the individual bar, you can edit the color of that one specific bar. So I would do that to this orange color, and then you have to do that again for each and every single bar. Again, depending on your data, this just might not be the easiest or most elegant solution. So I'm going to go back and show you another way that I like to do this if I wanted to do that. So I just clicked undo a bunch of times, 4 times, to go back to my original chart with all the blue. If I click on this, you can see all the data is highlighted, all the bars are highlighted at once. I'm going to actually make this into a 2-column chart, but it's going to be sort of fake on the back end. So you'll see what happens here. What I'm going to do is when you activate the chart, you can see the whole chart area here. I'm going to go ahead and drag, put my cursor here, and I'm going to drag this over to this next column here with no data. Now you can automatically see, or immediately see, that it looks like now there are there is a place for 2 different series of data. This is that clustered side-by-side bar chart. But we don't have any data here in this column, so it's all blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight the 2021 data, these 4 quarters of data. I'm going to go ahead and cut this, right-click and cut, and then I'm going to click over here and paste. And there you go. You can see that it's automatically a different series of data. The chart treats it as a different series, so it's going to be a different color. And so I can just click on one bar, it'll highlight all 4 of these, and I can go ahead and change the color, like this orange. Now, you can see, though, that the labels are actually off. They're off-center. So if we had 2 series of data here as kind of a side-by-side clustered bar chart, it would look better. The labels would be centered. So in order to fix this, what I have to do is click on just one series of the bars, and then I'm going to go over here to the Format Data Series tab. If this wasn't already open, I would right-click, go to Format Data Series, And then this box would pop up. This is where you can change the colors, do some shadows if you want to. Over here on this little series option icon, the bar chart icon, I'm going to go over here, and you have these two sliders, series overlap and gap width. So right now my gap width is set to 30%. I always like 30% for my bars or columns. And then now what I'm going to do, series overlap is actually 0. So the two series that are technically in this chart are not overlapped at all. I want them to completely overlap. So I'm going to take the slider and drag it over 100%. And now you can see it makes the bars thicker, it's prettier to the eye, and its center aligns the labels with the bars. So that's just another trick if you wanted to kind of color code your two chunks of yearly data here. If I wanted to do another step further, I'd probably create a nice title statement and maybe color code that. I could say maybe something like quarterly attendance increased from 2020 to 2021. I'm going to drag the chart a little bit over so we keep this on one line, and then what I would do is color code the title to match the bars, and that's a nice trick. You can really sort of draw your reader's attention from that title to the data in the bars. So I hope you enjoyed some of these tricks. I love that x-axis trick of breaking the labels across different lines if you have longer labels to your bars. I hope you try it and let me know how you use it in the comments below.